Hello, I'm Andrew Morris, and this is 700 Days to Live, your passport to curiosity, big ideas, and global citizenship in a world that won't stop changing. I can clearly remember the day I found my voice as a translator on social media. Filled with the zeal of a new convert, even though I'd been plugging away for 5 years already on my own, I opined to all who would listen, "This is the job for me. I finally found my home in the world of languages." The inconvenient truth that I'd said pretty much the same thing about teaching languages back in the day, and then again about teaching other people to teach languages, was swept under the carpet. But then, several years later, when I took on more of a prominent role on social media for the world's largest translation platform, I could then be heard to intone once again the fact that now I'd really got it, as this new role combined languages, teaching and writing, all facets of my personal diamond. But then fast forward a few years and I was placed at the helm of a non-profit providing free translations to humanitarian organizations. And I said to all and sundry that, but this is really me, because I'd added another string to the bow, that of motivating people and reconnected with my early years in development working in the global south for good causes. But then I crashed and burned out. And here I am in my umpteenth incarnation, declaiming to those weary few who are still prepared to hear me out that this is it: teaching, writing, being creative, and using languages as a tool rather than a means of earning money. You get my drift. Each time I get the impression I've reached a fixed point, the tide gently lifts me up and puts me in a different place. None of those enthusiastic comments were in themselves foolish. They were sincerely meant and expressions of joy. The only foolhardy thing about all of them, seen collectively, is to attempt to pin yourself down. We're not nouns like blocks of wood. We're verbs in constant, subtle motion. And as I said in yet another of my personal manifestos on the website, the most important verb of all is becoming. This is true not only of our professional lives, but our spiritual journeys, our physical health, our relationships, our financial circumstances, our social lives, our intellectual exploration, our political beliefs, and so much more. There may be some fine red threads connecting you to the person you were 10 years ago. And you may have some lifelong convictions about food, for example, or anti-racism, or liberal attitudes to social mores that remain broadly similar. But you will nevertheless have changed in countless ways. And that's something to celebrate, I think. I think I'd find the 20-year-old me pretty obnoxious after half an hour. I'm very glad there was no internet around to capture some of the opinions I espoused at university, where in a weird phase I was quite pro-life and solemnly opined that gay people should be celibate. Thank God that period was soon washed away by the University of Life. But nevertheless, I'm not sure I'd enjoy the 30, 40 or even 50-year-old me that much. But rather than seeing those past avatars as mistaken, I rejoice in them as milestones along the way to becoming the me I am today. Although ask me again when I'm 70 or 80, and no doubt I'll take a dim view of some of the things I do and think right now. As well as containing multitudes, we're also a process, not a finished product or a fixed point. We're constantly coming into contact with new ideas, social movements, people, and places which continue to shape us. Any attempt to resist that perpetual softening and shaping of our hard edges is bound to result in a Canute-like futility. Conservatives are people who rail against change and are often angry and fearful because change is inevitable. Empires rise and fall, entire countries disappear, and the shifting landscape around us reminds us every day that nothing stays the same for long. Take even something as apparently basic as gender, for example. the binary certainties of our youth are now much more fluid. Can we surf on these waves rather than get knocked off our boards and drown? That is the big challenge. Can we embrace fluidity, or in the more modern idiom, go with the flow? It's easy to say, but it takes courage to do. It means accepting the shifting ground beneath our feet. Looking back on all those multiple shifts in my own identity over the decades, I invite you to do the same, to practice the wisdom of allowing identity to be an unfinished and unfinishable symphony and a lifelong work in progress. You know, I really enjoy sharing these insights with you. I've been around the world a few times, both literally and metaphorically, and now I'm inviting all of you to explore it with me as part of a global community with no age, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, or culture barriers. Join the journey to a world without borders at 700 Days to Live on social media and at 700daystolive.com. Want the inside scoop? Sign up to our circle group either in the bio below or in the comments. And talking of comments, I'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you have a similar journey to share.